At her sister's wedding, my 6-year-old daughter leaned in and whispered, her voice trembling. "Mom, we have to go. Now." I blinked, confused. "Why?" She pulled out the phone. "Look." I glanced at the screen, and every hair on my body stood up. But before we get to that part, here's what happened earlier. Natalie adjusted her seafoam green dress, careful not to smudge it with the powder flaking off her face. 6-year-old Sophia tugged at her arm. "Mom, does Aunt Christina look like a princess?" "Almost," Natalie smiled. "She's the most beautiful woman here today." The wedding was held at a restaurant on the outskirts of Portland. Fancy place. Chandeliers, velvet curtains, flower-covered tables, it all felt a bit much. Natalie didn't feel like she belonged there. Too much sparkle. Too many fake smiles. She scanned the room, looking for a familiar face. Her parents were chatting with some distant relatives. Christina, glowing, was busy accepting congratulations. And there, Andrew, Natalie's ex-husband, stood to the side, talking on the phone. Natalie quickly looked away. Too many memories. Too much pain. "Can I have some juice?" Sophia tugged at her skirt. "Of course, honey. Let's go find some." Natalie took Sophia's hand and walked toward the drinks table. She tried to keep her distance from Andrew, but the venue was small, avoiding him was nearly impossible. He caught her eye and nodded slightly. She gave him a tight smile. "Mom, why does Dad look sad?" Sophia whispered. "He's just thinking," Natalie said gently. "Everything's okay." She poured juice into a cup and handed Sophia her old phone. "Just don't wander off too far, okay? And no filming strangers." Sophia nodded and was instantly lost in a game. Natalie sighed. She was exhausted. The divorce, the move, the new job, it had all drained her. And now this wedding. She truly wanted Christina to be happy, but being here hurt. Too many reminders of what she'd lost. Aunt Gloria, some distant relative, walked over. "Natalie, you look amazing. Divorce really suits you." Natalie forced a smile. "Thanks, Aunt Gloria." "And Andrew? Still single? Can't believe he let a beauty like you go." Natalie felt her face flush. "He has his life. I have mine." Aunt Gloria nodded knowingly, then switched topics to the bride's dress. Natalie exhaled, relieved. She just wanted to disappear. She scanned the room. Sophia was running around between tables, filming everything. Natalie smiled. In all her innocence and curiosity, Sophia was her only source of light these days. Natalie got caught in a chat with another relative, small talk and gossip about mutual friends. Time dragged. She kept glancing at Sophia, making sure she was okay. 15, maybe 20 minutes passed. Then Natalie realized she hadn't seen Sophia in a while. A wave of anxiety washed over her. "Sorry," she said to the relative and began scanning the room. No sign of Sophia. She walked between the tables, checked the lobby, even peeked outside. Her heart pounded. "Sophia," she called, trying not to panic. "Sophia, where are you?" Then she felt a tug on her skirt. It was Sophia, her eyes wide, filled with tears. "Mom," she whispered, "we have to go." "What happened, sweetheart? Where were you?" Sophia handed her the phone. "Just look. We need to leave." Natalie took the phone and looked at the screen. It was a short video Sophia had recorded. A few seconds of shaky footage. Blurry figures. And then a nightmare played out in that tiny window. Christina, in her wedding dress, was kissing Andrew. Not a quick friendly kiss on the cheek. No. A deep, hungry kiss, full of passion, enough to make Natalie's stomach turn. Andrew, in his suit, was holding her like he never wanted to let go. Natalie blinked. Watched the video again. And again. But the image didn't change. It was real. Her sister, getting married today to someone else, was making out with her ex-husband. The father of her child. Sophia leaned into her and whispered. "Mom, what are they doing?" Natalie felt ice run through her veins. How do you explain betrayal to a 6-year-old? Lies? Broken lives? How do you explain something you don't even understand yourself? "They're just hugging, sweetie," she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. Sophia sat down and started nibbling a cookie. Natalie opened the video again. And again. She searched for some kind of explanation. Maybe it was a fight. Maybe Christina was pushing him away and he forced it. But no. Every movement, every touch, every glance, it was mutual. Natalie felt sick. She rushed to the restroom and leaned over the toilet until she threw up. The bitter taste of bile burned her throat. She splashed cold water on her face, trying to steady herself. Looked in the mirror. A stranger stared back, pale, hollow-eyed, lips trembling. Where was the confident Natalie who'd come to her sister's wedding just that morning? Where was the woman who had survived a divorce and still managed to hold her head high? She went back to the hall. Sophia was playing with a doll, quietly humming to herself. Natalie sat beside her. "Sweetheart, don't tell anyone what you saw, okay?" she said, looking into her daughter's eyes. Sophia nodded. "Okay, Mommy. Is it a secret?" "Yes, it's our secret," Natalie replied, pulling her into a hug. "The most important one." She replayed the last few years in her mind, moments when Andrew acted strange, when Christina showed up a little too often, when they'd leave together, on errands. She always brushed it off. Thought she was being paranoid. Jealous. Just post-divorce emotions. She convinced herself it was nothing. That she was imagining things. But she wasn't. It had been there all along. Right in front of her. She just didn't want to see it. She lied to herself. Andrew must have noticed something was off. He walked over. "Natalie, is everything okay?" She stared at him, unsure what to say, how to explain that she knew. How to pour out all the pain, the rage boiling inside her. Finally, she said quietly. "I know everything." "What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb," Natalie snapped. "I saw the video." Andrew froze. Natalie's hand started shaking. He opened his mouth. "Natalie, She cut him off. "How could you?" she screamed, her voice cracking with emotion. "How could you betray me like that? Betray our daughter?" "Natalie, please, just let me explain," Andrew tried. "I don't want to hear it," she shouted. "You're a disgusting traitor. I hate you." Sobbing uncontrollably, Natalie collapsed into a chair. Tears streamed down her face. She cried from pain, from betrayal, from heartbreak. She cried over her broken family, over the love she'd lost, over the dreams that had been shattered. She cried for the naive, trusting woman she used to be. When the tears finally stopped, a strange sense of calm washed over her. She took a deep breath and realized, she needed to talk to her sister. She needed answers. She needed to understand how they could do this to her. Natalie found Christina in a back room, probably set aside for the bride to rest. She was sitting in front of a mirror while a makeup artist did some final touch-ups. Christina looked radiant in her white dress, but all Natalie could see was a mask. A mask hiding a lie. She waited until the makeup artist finished and politely asked her to leave. Christina gave her a puzzled look but nodded. As soon as the door closed, Natalie stepped forward. "We need to talk," she said quietly, trying to keep her voice steady. Inside, though, a storm was raging. Christina turned to her, eyebrows raised. Is something wrong? You look so pale. Natalie pulled out her phone, her fingers slightly trembling. She opened the video and handed it to her sister. Christina looked at the screen, confused. Just watch. Christina took the phone. At first, her face showed confusion. Then a faint smile. Then horror. She stared at the video like it was dragging her under. The color drained from her face, she was even paler than Natalie now. Silence. Only Natalie's shaky breathing filled the room. It's not what you think, Christina whispered, eyes still down. Natalie let out a dry laugh. Then what should I think, Christina? That it's some sick joke. A bad edit? I watched you kiss my ex-husband. On your wedding day. Explain to me what I'm supposed to think. Christina looked up, eyes red and glossy with tears. Fear was written all over her face. I don't know how to explain it. It was a mistake. A mistake. Natalie repeated, her anger rising. One big, disgusting mistake. You're marrying Ethan and kissing my ex-husband. Do you even hear yourself? I know it's awful, Christina choked, tears streaming down her face, smudging her makeup. I didn't want you to find out. It didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything. Natalie's voice shook with fury. You betrayed me, Christina. As a sister. As a woman. I didn't mean to. Christina cried. Please, Natalie, just listen. I love Ethan. I want to be with him. That kiss, it was a moment of weakness. I don't know what came over me. A moment of weakness that cost me years of my life, Natalie said quietly. You have no idea how hard it was after the divorce. And you were running to him the whole time. Or did it start before the divorce? Christina said nothing. Her head dropped. That silence was worse than any answer. Please don't tell Ethan, she begged. Please, I'm asking you, don't ruin my life. I love him. He loves me. Natalie looked at her sister, and felt both pity and disgust. Pity for the scared little girl tangled in her own lies. Disgust at the realization that girl could do something like this. I'm not going to tell Ethan, Natalie said, keeping her voice as calm as she could. This is your life. You get to decide how to live it. But I can't stay here. I can't look at you knowing what you've done. What are you going to do? Christina asked, sobbing. I'm leaving, Natalie replied. I'm taking Sophia and I'm going. I'm not going to cause a scene. I won't ruin your day. But I can't be here. Please don't go, Christina rushed toward her, trying to hug her. I'll fix it, I promise. We'll pretend it never happened. Like a bad dream. Natalie stepped back. No, Christina. There's no fixing this. You made your choice. And now I'm making mine. She walked out of the room, leaving Christina sobbing alone. Out in the hallway, Sophia was waiting. She sat on a chair clutching her teddy bear, her eyes wide and scared. Mom, what's wrong? She asked. You look sad. Natalie knelt down and wrapped her in a hug. It's okay, sweetheart, she whispered, keeping her voice calm. We just need to go home. But what about Aunt Christina's wedding? Sophia asked, confused. The wedding will go on without us, Natalie said gently. We have to leave. She took Sophia's hand, and they headed for the exit. Natalie could feel the guests watching her, but she didn't care. Let them look. All that mattered was getting out. Getting as far away as possible from the lies and betrayal. She grabbed her coat from the cloakroom, threw it over her shoulders, and stepped outside. The cold air hit her face like a slap, but it was fresh, clean, honest. Unlike everything she'd just walked away from. "Mom, why are we leaving?" Sophia asked as they got into the car. Natalie looked at her daughter. How do you explain that her aunt and father had betrayed them? How do you talk about deceit and hypocrisy hiding behind pretty smiles and grand speeches? Because sometimes, Natalie said softly, you have to walk away to start over. She started the car and pulled out onto the road. In the rearview mirror, the restaurant where Christina's wedding was happening grew smaller and smaller. Natalie didn't know what came next. But she knew one thing for sure, this was a new chapter. One with no more lies. No more betrayal. Just her and her daughter. They drove home in silence. Sophia dozed off in the back seat, hugging her teddy bear tight. Natalie kept her eyes on the road, her mind racing. What now? How do you live after something like that? How do you face people again? She didn't have all the answers. But she knew one thing, she would never let anyone fool her again. She would be strong. For herself. For her daughter. This was the start of a new life. A life built on truth. And love. The next morning, Christina came to Natalie's apartment. She didn't bring excuses, only a quiet, heavy guilt that clung to every word, every movement. Natalie let her in, not because she wanted to, but because some part of her felt obligated. When Sophia saw her aunt, she frowned and clung tightly to her mother. Natalie gently motioned for her to go play in her room. After a moment of hesitation, she obeyed. Christina sat down on the edge of the couch like she was afraid to take up space. She looked drained. Dark circles under her eyes, no trace of color in her face. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper, like even her conscience didn't want to hear it. I know I can't undo any of this, she began, staring off to the side. I know I hurt you more than I can ever make up for, and I don't expect you to forgive me. Natalie said nothing. She crossed her arms, watching her sister with a strange detachment, like she wasn't really there. No anger. No sadness. Just emptiness. All her emotions had burned out the night before. I don't even know how it happened, Christina went on, stumbling over her words. Everything just got so tangled. I never meant to hurt you, Natasha. You have to believe that. Never meant to hurt me. Natalie thought bitterly. Then what do you call this? Betraying your sister and her ex-husband? A twisted kind of love? But she didn't say anything. She just waited for Christina to finish. Andrew, he was always there, Christina whispered. She looked up, and her eyes were filled with a kind of hopelessness. After the divorce, we talked a lot. He said he understood how hard things were for you. I know it sounds awful, but that's how it started. Natalie thought back to those months after the split. The phone calls. The late-night chats. Now it all made sense. The support, the understanding, just a cover for their affair. And then what? Natalie asked, her voice calm but cold. You married Ethan knowing you still had feelings for Andrew? Christina flinched like she'd been slapped. No, she cried. I don't love Andrew. That was a mistake. He was just someone who was there. But Ethan is a good man. I wanted to be happy with him. Happy while lying to him, Natalie said quietly. Happy while destroying my life. Christina broke down, burying her face in her hands. I'm sorry, Natasha. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I ruined everything. Natalie watched her sister's tears with a cold, distant stare. She didn't believe a word anymore. Everything had been a lie, Christina's smiles, her hugs, her declarations of love. All of it soaked in betrayal. Why did you come here? Natalie asked once Christina had calmed down a bit. What did you expect? That I'd forgive you? That we'd go back to being sisters like nothing ever happened. Christina said nothing. She just sat with her head down. That's not possible, Natalie said. You crossed a line. You betrayed me. And I can't forgive that. Not now. Maybe one day. But not now. Christina stood up, her face streaked with tears. I understand, she whispered. I get it. She walked to the door, paused in the doorway, and turned back. I'll always love you, Natasha, she said softly, despite everything. Natalie didn't respond. She just stood there, watching her sister leave and gently close the door behind her. And in that moment, something inside Natalie finally snapped. A bond that once felt unbreakable had been severed, forever. After Christina left, Natalie sat in silence for a long time, staring out the window. Her mind raced with thoughts, about the past, the present, the future. About how her life had flipped upside down in a single day. About how she'd lived in denial, blind to what had been right in front of her. And about how she now had to start over. It wouldn't be easy. But she had Sophia. Her little girl who saw the world for what it was. Who told the truth, always. Sophia, who became her anchor when everything else fell apart. Natalie decided to cut off contact with Christina. She needed time, to grieve, to heal. She didn't want to see her. Didn't want to hear her voice. She needed space. Space from everything that reminded her of the betrayal. She was even stricter with Andrew. She blocked his number, deleted him from social media, and told him he wasn't allowed near Sophia. Natalie wouldn't let his presence poison their daughter's life. And Sophia noticed. Her mom seemed calmer. The worry and confusion that had clouded her eyes for months were gone. There was a quiet clarity in her now. One evening, as Natalie tucked Sophia into bed, she asked her, "Are you glad we left the wedding?" Sophia nodded and cuddled closer. "Yeah," she whispered. "It felt sad there. But now it feels good." Natalie hugged her, feeling a deep warmth spread through her chest. In that moment, she knew, Sophia was her everything. Her reason to keep going. For her, Natalie would do anything. And so she began a new life. She found a new job, moved to a new apartment in a different part of Portland. She wanted to grow, to learn, to move forward. No more living in the past, she was focused on building a future. Natalie became more open, more social. She met new people, went to movies, to plays, to exhibits and concerts. She learned to enjoy life again, moment by moment. She no longer feared being alone. She realized solitude wasn't punishment, it was a chance to reconnect with herself, to understand what she truly felt and wanted. Natalie became strong. Independent. She stopped living for others' approval, stopped fearing judgment. She lived her own life, on her terms. And most importantly, she learned to forgive. Not Christina. Not Andrew. Herself. She forgave herself for being naive. For trusting too easily. For not seeing the truth. For letting herself be fooled. And in this new life, free from illusion, free from betrayal, Natalie found something real. The happiness of being herself. The joy of loving and being loved. The gift of watching her daughter grow, seeing her light up with wonder and hope, believing in her mom. Natalie, grown and grounded, started over. This time, with no illusions, only self-respect. And she knew, deep down, the best was yet to come.